The riots piss me off because it's misplaced anger, and it only feeds in more to the problem. Feeds into the systematic racism. That's one thing. Feeds onto the racism. That's one thing I'm mad about. The protests also shouldn't be focused about a human right. This is a human right. No one should fear to be killed by a police officer. The protest should be demanding the systematic racism to be fixed. To be this system that's meant to keep minorities at the bottom in the worst communities without any chance of getting out, and keeps them in this loop of drugs, gang banging, and fucking going to prison, and it sets them up to be in a bad light. That's what's going on. And what pisses me off the most out of all of this is nothing will fucking change, especially when Donald Trump is in office. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Culture Overload, the realest podcast in the game, where some real people having some real conversations. If you're new to this podcast, the podcast will talk anything, everything, politics, news, stories, you name it, we talk it. With that being said, we also don't filter out anything we say, so if you are overly sensitive, this podcast is not for you. Especially today's episode, because it's going to be a touchy one. We're going to be touching on a subject. You guys probably can already guess what we're going to talk about. But before we get into that, if you're new to the podcast, make sure to follow us on whatever platform you're listening to us on, as well as follow our Instagram at culture.overload. It's where we keep you posted and in the loop at all times. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. As you guys know, you know what's going on right now in the news. It's a little bit of a touchy subject. Let's just clarify before we get into anything. None of this is to come off as disrespectful or anything. We're just trying to have a conversation that hopefully is productive in some way. But we also do gotta start by paying our respects to George Floyd. Rest in peace. And, to all the people who have, been victims of police brutality. But today, let's just, we're trying to have a conversation. Some of it's going to be our opinions. So hopefully no one gets too butthurt. We're just going to be talking. We're going to be seeing the real issue. And I kind of want to get this started. It's kind of a weird thing because I was on board with the whole protests and all that as it went all along because, it's been going on for a long time. But as you guys know, if you guys listen to the last, Moaz rants or whatever, I've recently started watching a YouTuber, Donut Operator. I don't know why I got an accent there. But it's basically a police officer that kind of goes over a lot of the shootings or, commentates over, police encounters in the past that, have led to protests and stuff like that. And, in a lot of it, I kind of see, okay, it's not really, bad people. It's just, a miscalculation, fear, all of that. And, going into that, once I started watching him, it kind of, I don't know, it started making me think more before I quickly jump the gun and say, oh, police brutality. But there is, even himself, there's no way this George Floyd situation wasn't, it wasn't, what's it called? It wasn't justified in any way. Even he himself said in police training, there's no such thing as putting your knee on someone's neck. They say, they have in training, you put them on their shoulder or their back or something to keep them down. But in training, there's nothing that teaches you to put your knee on someone's neck like that. And I don't know, I know there's a lot of police hatred going on right now, and I'm probably the last person you'd probably hear this coming from. But, it's a very, very small percentage of the police officers that have cruel intentions. We got to understand that being a police officer, Police officers are human. Humans are bound to be corrupt, bound to be racist, and I'm not saying racism's still not a thing. Is this racist? Was this racially driven? I don't know. I'm not the guy. I'm not the police officer. It sure does seem like it. Obviously, the guy, that's not something a normal human would do, especially a police officer. And that's just, it's disgusting. The clip. How he's sitting on his neck for like, what, 7 minutes or something? Like, he was just abusing it. That was an abuse of power. But we got to realize, okay, this is coming from someone who's been arrested, who used to say fuck the police and all that. We got to realize not all of them are bad people, and it's actually a very small percentage of them that are actually bad people who do abuse their power, who have bad intentions. But we can't, like, I don't know. I saw like a bunch of posts and stuff of people like on their stories, like, can't when this happens, like, you can't blame it, and it's just like a picture of like someone running up to a police car and like shooting them up. You got to realize those are also people too, and not all of them have bad intentions. We got to realize that the media, just like every other bad news that we hear about, the media just, since there's a spotlight, we see the bad so much more. Like, we don't see all the good police encounters. We see the small percentage of the bad encounters. And I just want to start it off, the police hate isn't justified, okay? Yes, I do agree, and, the problem that I've been saying throughout the whole time, and I'm sorry I'm ranting, Abdullah hasn't spoken a word yet, it's training. I honestly think police officers need more training, more discipline than military personnel, because, bro, if you watch Live PD, the people that they deal with, man, just think about it. But in no way is it justified to have your neck on knee on someone's neck for 7 minutes. And he got what he deserves. He has jail time. He got death threats, whatever, whatnot. But I just wanted to start it off with there, and then let's just see where this conversation goes. There's just so much I want to talk about this topic. I don't know. I haven't let Abdullah weigh in. I don't know. What are you thinking so far?
So just one quick thing though, like with him, like the officer was on George Floyd's neck for about 9 minutes, and then when the first reports came out, apparently the police station said that he was resisting arrest, and that he died to other health complications. But then after reviewing the footage that people were recording and then looking at CCTV footage of that,
Mm-hmm.
You could have obviously seen like he wasn't resisting at all. If anything, he was pleading for help from his the surrounding like people, right? Like,
yeah,
he's calling out for mom, he was calling out for help. Like, he's screaming, "Yo, I can't breathe! I can't breathe!" Like, there was no resistance, bro. So for these officers and for the police station themselves to be like, "Oh yeah, he was freaking resisting arrest," bro, that's so fucked up in my opinion. And then that Asian officer himself, he's like, "Oh, he can talk, so he's fine, he can breathe." Like, bro, if anything, those two should be locked up. And there's also 2 other police officers that were on his back that were just just holding him down. Like just imagine like having 3 people on you.
That's what I think. Like, I see it in a lot of arrest videos too. Like, one person, like fucking 20 people will pile up. Okay, I get 3, I get 2, but a fucking whole thing. That's why I'm saying training, bro. A lot of officers are fucking incompetent. Like,
but then again, that's only for like a short, spontaneous time. Bro, these officers were on him for almost 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's what pisses me off.
You know what I mean?
That's why there's no excuse for this. There's no excuse.
Yeah, 100%. No, like, this was
an abuse of power. Yeah, and then the thing is the other officers around him not stepping up is what pisses me off even more.
But the thing is,
they have the snitch code.
Saying, like, exactly. Yeah, there's like this blue can't cross.
Yeah.
Which is like, yo, you fucking stupid. Would you rather go to jail for the death of an innocent man, or would you be like, oh no, I'm gonna stick with
It's not even about. It's not even going to jail. It's the moral thing. It's the moral thing. You're seeing someone abuse their power. You see this guy, okay, you guys got him in handcuffs. There's no way he can hurt you. The only reason I think it's justified for officers to use deadly force at all, if there's a chance that the officer, can get killed.
Get hurt. Yeah.
But in this chance, you have him in handcuffs. You have him saying, this guy's on the ground. You're just standing on his neck. That guy is just a fucking prick. I don't know what happened to him early on in the day. Someone, fucking his wife cheated on him or some shit. And he had to take it out on someone. I don't know if it's racial. I don't know what it is. But that's why I'm thinking, like, the number one thing, if we're gonna see things change, there needs to be a big shift in how police are trained, in protocols, as well as, there's just so much training. Like, police officers also need a lot of tests, mental health tests, competencies, and it should be ongoing. I think there's only a test to get in. There's no ongoing checks.
I definitely agree with that. Also, like, if you think about it, these officers nowadays, like, they're fairly old, so they were still growing up in a time where, like, racism was okay in a way. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't really that frowned upon. It wasn't really that forbidden. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's
which is why I hope these new officers that are coming out, like, who live in
these communities,
who live with these people who are gonna make the change. You know what I mean? It's not gonna happen overnight. You know what I mean? Like, there's still gonna be those officers who are in their, like, whatever 60s, who still have their beliefs on the country and all that. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely do believe, like, these new officers, these young kids that are gonna come out of the academy or whatever, however they train, that are gonna definitely see in a different light,
maybe. It depends. Here's a scary thing. I realized, I was thinking this the other day. Why is racism still a thing? And I was just thinking, it has to be these people that are being brought up with racist parents. Because racism, it's not something you're born with. As a kid, you're out with other kids. You're playing around. You're feeling free. You don't care skin color. You don't care whatever it is. You're playing around. Yeah. You don't even care language sometimes.
Literally.
Sometimes you don't even talk. You're just fucking playing around. So racism only exists in people that are raised in parents and families like Donald Trump's. And honestly, if at this point, if you still think Donald Trump's not a racist, you're fucking stupid. That's it.
Yeah.
And especially, and this is what pissed me off. This is, like, before this podcast, I was gonna go on a ramble. This is what pisses me off the most. There's so many things. The riots piss me off because it's misplaced anger, and it only feeds in more to the problem. Not in the police brutality. It feeds into the systematic racism, and I'll get into that later on. That's one thing. Feeds onto the racism. That's one thing I'm mad about. The protests also shouldn't be focused about a human right. This is a human right. No one should fear to be killed by a police officer. The protest should be demanding the systematic racism to be fixed. To be this system that's meant to keep minorities at the bottom in the worst communities without any chance of getting out, and keeps them in this loop of drugs, gangbanging, and fucking going to prison. And it sets them up to be in a bad light. That's what's going on. And what pisses me off the most out of all of this is nothing will fucking change. Especially when Donald Trump is in office. First of all, a racist in office. Second of all, have you seen this guy's response to the riots and stuff? His response is nothing but what the riots are trying to address. This fucking dumb fuck. He's like, I'll send military. Why don't you address the reason that people are so fucking angry? Okay? Yes, I don't condone the riots and stuff, but I get when people are so fucking angry, you can't do anything. And unfortunately, these riots, all these businesses, all these people that got hurt because of these riots, because of Donald Trump in office, the real place where change needs to happen is the White House. nothing will fucking happen. Because this guy's a dumb fuck. I saw his response. His response is nothing. Nothing. He did not mention anything about the situation. I don't even think he knows what's going on or some shit. He mentions the riots, he does all this, and he mentions that, oh, if people don't get it under control, I'm sending the military. Okay, I get it. You gotta keep people safe and stuff. But why don't you address the real fucking problem, you dumb prick? Oh, this guy actually pisses me off. And that's why, honestly, this is kind of a tangent. I had a conversation with a friend recently, and it's made me really think. It's like, why do I really watch the news and stuff when it pisses me off and you can't do anything about it? That's why, I'm going to use a podcast as a way to just vent about these news problems and just forget about them. But another thing, so let me go back to the systematic racism. These riots feed into the systematic racism. When you're destroying businesses in your neighborhood, who works in that Target that you just destroyed in your neighborhood? Who works there? It's people in your community. Who are the people that shop there? People in your community. Who are the people that are getting... where's that money going? Back into the community. And that's why I said these riots feed into the systematic racism. Because the systematic racism, and I did research on this, you can too. The reason why there's so many minority groups in ghetto neighborhoods, these bad neighborhoods, is because early on, as soon as the segregation and everything started to kind of combine together, they still managed to keep them at the lowest. They put them in neighborhoods that the real estate property. That's why real estate is such a big thing. They put them in communities that with poor real estate properties. Which means poor investment. No one wanted to invest there, which means lower jobs, which then, equals to people are using drugs, and then people that are selling drugs to live. And it's just this whole back and forth system. And that is what really needs to be addressed. No one addresses that. No one talks about that anymore. And it really makes me mad when I see these riots. It's like, oh, I get it. I get you're mad. But, in some way, it's kind of brain dead, because it feeds it. I really wish you could scream and tell them, this really just feeds into that systematic racism. Because now, once that business that you looted, there might be an abandoned. That business might just move out. You scared off possible businesses. Now possible businesses that might have invested in that neighborhood. Oh, fuck, what if a riot happens and my shit burns down? I get the riots. I get the anger. But then you gotta... And here's the thing. I right before I started this episode, this was actually a quote from the brother. And, it literally speaks to what I just said right now. It literally lines up 100%. So he was saying... he was just, first of all addressing it. He's like, we need to change up. We need to do it peacefully. He's like, in every case of police brutality, same things happening. You have protests, you destroy stuff, so they want us to destroy ourselves. Let's do this another way. See right there, he knows what's going on. They want us to destroy ourselves. That is exactly what's going on right now. Those jobs that are lost are people from the community. Those businesses that might move out, people from the community. And that's who affects. And that is the saddest thing. It's like when this happens every time, and the riots go on, and it just hurts their community even more, and you can't do anything. I don't know. That was just... Sorry, I just kind of went on another rant there, but...
No. Just to add on to that, there's a lot of new things coming out that actually only 20% of the people that are getting arrested in these riots are actually from Minnesota. The other percentages, the 80%, are out of
mm-hmm.
The whatever it's called,
mm-hmm.
the state. You know what I mean? Yeah. And actually, if you see a lot of these videos, bro,
the looting and stuff.
The black people are the ones who are trying to protect these store owners, because they know the implication that's going to cause if they destroy the city.
It's not.
And then you see people, you can see their faces. They're all white, man. They're the ones who are throwing Molotovs. They're the ones causing damage, and they know that this.
I don't know about the accuracy of that, because I've seen videos on both sides,
Yeah,
And I, I and I was
obviously there's gonna be people on both sides. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it's so I don't
But
think it's really a race thing in the rioting thing. It's just a kind of a smart man and someone someone just taking advantage of. That's what I think. A lot of these looters and you know, uh, that's what pisses me off because you guys. I don't think I think the people that are actually behind the cause are the ones that are peacefully protesting. I honestly think the looters and stuff are just taking advantage of it, and they're just scum. They're just scum taking advantage of a situation like this for their own benefit. That I don't know. That pisses me off about the riots and stuff. And there are people, like you said, there are people from the community. Like I saw the one guy. There was one guy in front of the police station that they were burning down. He was like in front of it. He's like, he's like, come on, let's do this peacefully. There was a guy about to go into a police station, I think, to like break it or some shit, and he like yells at him. He's like, come on, man. I know you're mad, but this isn't how we go on about it. And there are people that are smart going on about this smart. But the riots, they only hurt the businesses that are mostly minority groups. Who do you think runs these stores? It's, Asian families, Arab families, Hispanics, blacks,
Yeah.
That's what, I don't know, it just makes me mad that the riots go on and it only feeds into the system even more. And they don't even realize it. I don't know, how do you get the message to them? And the thing that pisses me off the most is all these riots, all these people that are, getting angry. Like, thank God the guy got arrested. He got what he deserved. So
that's also what I was gonna say.
That's what. That's why. That's why I also don't understand why the riots are still going on. He got what he deserved. People learned a lesson. Why are the riots still going on? Why are they spreading? I don't know. What were you gonna say?
Bro, in the beginning, I felt like the riots, and I do think it's very unnecessary now. Maybe it may have been more necessary in the beginning, but I think that the riots in the beginning should have been held off until the state or the police county made a mistake. Because listen, you got everything you needed. You got a video of this guy killing him in cold blood. He's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Yeah, he got arrested. Yeah, but I'm saying if he ended up walking away, I think that's when you cause a riot. Not when you guys have him red-handed. Not when now you can be like, hey, listen, let's fucking change. You know what I mean? Because now it's like, all right, you guys don't even want to change if you're burning down your own city. You know what I mean? You're just doing it to mess with the government and stuff like that. But I'm saying like they should have waited until either they were gonna like say, hey, listen, like we're gonna let him go for free or whatever, and something like that. But no, and I was also thinking.
Well, the mayor,
this guy, yeah.
The mayor himself didn't address. He said he wanted charges pressed against him.
Yeah. But then I was also saying, bro, regardless if this man walks free or if he's gonna end up in prison, bro, the chances of him getting killed is highly likely right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's be 100%.
Oh, they already said there was already people at his house apparently or some shit.
Yeah, like the guy's not gonna walk away like unscathed.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I mean, he kind of like whatever happens to him, he kind of does deserve it. Like that's just scummy. Like,
yeah,
it's just like I said, taking advantage of people. In a way, it's okay. It's not really taking advantage, but you have him in handcuffs. You're kind of abusing your power. That's another thing that pisses me off. It's people abusing their power. You have him in handcuffs. Like at this point, you're just trying to be big macho man. And
the scary thing is, it's like, thank God that someone recorded this. You know what I mean? Imagine the hundreds of other people who are fallen victim to this, and no one has the real idea of what happened.
No. Here's the thing. The thing is in a lot of situations, there are recordings, and actually, they show just a small clip that actually are in, and like I was saying in the beginning of this, the donut operator thing. A lot of these protests and stuff are over like a small clip with no what's it called? Yeah, no context. So a lot of what Donut does is he does add the context, and there's this isn't the only protest. There's like a lot of smaller ones, but in those situations, that's why I said I was really like on edge. Like it kind of, it's a weird time because I started kind of backing away of this, jumping to the gun on, thinking police is racist in America and stuff like that because of the donut operator thing. Because unfortunately, because of people like Sean King and stuff, who take every chance they can to get people mad at the police, even when the context behind it is actually in the police's favor.
Yeah.
And this is something else. This is something different. The thing that pisses me off the most is, unfortunately, after all these riots, after all these businesses have been hurt, like I said, man, nothing's gonna change. Nothing is gonna change, especially when Donald Trump's in office. That's the saddest thing. All these people that are hurt, all these businesses that are hurt. I personally, I don't know about you. I personally don't think anything at all is going to change.
I'd like to hope that it's going to change, but like the way we're moving right now, I don't think it's going to change right away, overnight.
Oh, nothing happens overnight. Especially like a big system change, like it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. No, like I hope obviously the police officers and like the police academies and all around the world, like kind of implement, like you said, like maybe like an annual revision or like something like that. You know what I mean? Where they're being tested annually, but then again, you got to think about funding and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Man, police. I'm sorry, but like they gotta step up their game on training. Like, I think you can't have fear in yourself if you're a police officer. Like I said, you have to be more trained than the military. You have to be more disciplined than someone in the military. Because, in the military, you're going against, other fighters. You don't have to worry as much about, you don't have to worry as much about not killing them, right? A threat is a threat. You eliminate that threat in the military. When you're a police officer, sometimes there's a threat that might not be directly towards you, but, just because you're trying to help, I guess, or, de-escalate the situation. As a police officer, you're going to be put in situations where you're at risk and you have to try your hardest to preserve your life and the life that you're dealing with.
Facts.
That's why training. I think so. I heard a lot of things. Here are my proposals of how we can go forward. First of all, big White House is not going to do anything. So systematic racism is going to unfortunately be a thing because, like I said, that type of change needs to happen at the White House, and that ain't going to happen, and no one's demanding it. They should honestly. This is what pisses me off. Politicians should feel the fucking the consequences of their actions. Like I really would. Like they would make him more accountable. But like I said, with him being in office, the systematic racism unfortunately is going to be a thing. There's no funding that's going to help these communities. But I was thinking, I heard ideas of maybe like community-based policing, but that's also, I don't know, that's iffy, because you might end up with like something like a drug cartel running, like drug cartels in Mexico.
Yeah, 100%.
So my idea, here's my proposal. The police in that community, first of all, are highly trained in racial, interaction and stuff like that. And two, number one, the main thing they should try to do is get police to recruit people from that neighborhood. Try to get people into the police academy from the same neighborhood, so these police officers deal with their own people. It's their neighborhood, right? But still be accountable to, withhold the law and not, do some sketchy shit with the drug games and stuff. And then the second thing is, maybe you might not have enough numbers, is then the high level of training for like racial sensitive type of thing, like racial training or the sexual whatever training they do at work, like nowadays.
Yeah.
That type of training. And then another thing, this somewhat for the systematic racism thing, is to really get some community. Like that's what I was honestly thinking about starting here. Even like the youth here aren't in much of risks as in the United States, but youth mentorship, because like that's the biggest problem that leads to this downward spiral that people can't get out of in those neighborhoods is the parents unfortunately grow up poor. They can't provide for their kids to go to college. Same thing happens to their kids. They have to sell drugs or do whatever to get by. And that's the never ending cycle of those minority neighborhoods, unfortunately. But that's my
Mm-hmm.
take. Those are my proposals on it. That's
Yeah, those definitely are things. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I do like the way the idea where like you kind of bring people from around the like your own like neighborhood. That way you kind of understand what they're going through and stuff, rather than just bringing a random stranger.
mm-hmm.
Um, or even not even from the neighborhood, or like have certain cops associated with certain neighborhoods, so
Mm-hmm.
whenever they get a call, they're familiar with the neighborhood. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like it's not a bunch of randoms coming each time.
Yeah.
It's someone that they can trust. Like they can trust the officer.
Mm-hmm.
The officer can trust the people. You know what I mean? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be someone who was brought up there. It doesn't have to be someone who is from even from that state,
Mm-hmm.
but just someone that is assigned to that like little community that they take care of. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
that's their community. And that will also give the officers like a sense of responsibility. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? They're like, oh, I'm responsible for these people.
I know I've seen.
Because when you like when the officers are just patrolling, like it's so overwhelming being like let's just say being responsible for a whole city,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a lot easier to be responsible for like a little community. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
I've
And
seen.
that will make it more bearable for them, I guess, and
Mm-hmm.
reduce that stress at least a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I do think they do that in certain areas. I don't know how,
Yeah.
like, which areas they do, like, don't do it. But I don't know. I remember watching, like, a live PD thing, and then, the police officers going to a neighborhood and, shooting hoops with some kids or whatever. And they're,
Yeah.
just saying this is like a, like a friendly contact, just, get friendly with the neighborhood. And that's the type of thing that should be going on more often. And another thing that I was thinking about is to remove the racial situation out of it. I think police officers in minority neighborhoods should be minorities,
Yeah.
and people are gonna say, oh, but then you're racially selecting like workers, like white people can't work there. Boo
Yeah.
hoo! You can work fucking anywhere. Just this is like a thing that needs to be done, and also it removes, like, if something like this in the future happens, or not like this, or a shooting happens or something, it's not really questionable if it was a racism thing, if it was a racial thing.
Yeah.
That's my personal take on it. I don't know, but
So
I can't do
just
anything
just
about it, so I'm just gonna fucking shut up and forget this thing ever happened.
just to add to your quick fire, real quick. Breaking news: apparently, Trump just announced that he will be using the military to end riots and lawlessness.
Hmm.
Announced about 3 hours ago, 4 hours
Yeah, I
ago.
think I was just reading into that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there
No,
was.
but before, I think he was saying, you guys, because apparently they were also gonna, not riot, but protest in front of the White
They
House.
did, and they cleared him out with tear gas.
No, they cleared him out. But he's like, if you guys like even thought about, stepping over and like attacking the White
Oh
House,
yeah,
like he was gonna send dogs and like,
yeah.
the weapons
See,
that they've never seen before and
fuck
stuff
this
like that.
guy. And he was also
Yeah.
inciting racial, basically a racial battle, because he was calling out on other people to, like, face these hooligans, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
man, this guy is just a dumb fuck. Like, I'm just.
And also, just one other thing, like I saw the other day, like there's like people paying these black people to, like cause damage. Like I saw this one video of this white guy who's literally telling people, "Yo, listen, there's like a chair over there. Go bring it and smash this window. I'll give you like $5, $10." And then apparently a couple of cops got exposed, for causing destruction,
Mm-hmm.
and then getting like the black people involved in that, and then obviously the police stations are going to be like, oh, We had nothing to do with it, whatever, But like, let's be honest, like it's not. We can't really put
Where
it
do you get
past
this news
Americans.
from? Where do you get this police
Uh,
news from?
Philip DeFranco still.
Hmm. I don't know.
Watch his edit.
This still paints the police in a bad light. I honestly think majority of police are not bad people.
No, 100% no. Like there's obviously the ones that are doing their due diligence. You know what I mean? Making sure the communities are safe and being like. But let's be honest. Every police officer is going to be biased one way or another, right? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's what they're trained to do is to be professional about it and not let that interfere with their judgment. But like as you saw, like in the situation, it was not taken. It was not taken care of properly, and then they got the best of him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But we can't say, oh, we're gonna have a time and day where no one's gonna be racist one way or another. Bro, you can have your own opinions towards anything in this world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's your job to control those opinions and control those beliefs to the best of your ability. But it's because when that becomes implicating or dangerous to other people,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it's wrong.
Yeah.
You have the right to believe one person is superior to the other. No one's saying you don't have the right to. Obviously, that's wrong. But you can't say you don't.
If you're
that's wrong.
If you're in a position where you can use that prejudice, then that's a problem.
Exactly.
Like if you're the president of a country and you're racist, like Donald Trump, that is a problem.
Yeah. No, and then it's just like
and the police thing, yeah. Like remember,
is more important.
Yeah, remember, you know how we cancel all these celebrities and shit for racist stuff or homophobic tweets? Fuck canceling those people. The people that really need to lose their job for that shit is people like teachers, like police officers, CEOs. Realistically, because those people are, they're choosing people.
Powerful.
Yeah, they're in positions of power. Like you said, go ahead if you feel like white people are more superior. If you truly think that, go ahead. But if you're starting to act on it and starting to hurt other people based on it, then you deserve a beatdown. Like, yeah. I'm not a fan of violence, but like, I don't know, racists are another thing.
Yeah.
Racists,
yeah,
like that's why I would beat the fuck out of Donald Trump. Like, and that's, man, why aren't these rioters like trying to wreak more havoc on the Donald Trump, not the fucking their own cities?
Yeah.
And people will still say, "Oh, he's not racist. He just likes protecting the country." Shut the fuck up. He's a racist. He's a racist. He's been a racist since day one. And you know what? I gave people slack at first. I was like, all right, you know what? You might think he's just protecting the country. He wants to ban Muslim travel. He wants a wall in Mexico. Says all this racist shit, and you still think he's not racist? All right, I'll allow you. But then as time went on, as he showed, man, this is the stuff he says on air. Imagine the shit he says, he thinks in his head, or in behind closed doors. Like,
but then again, that's okay. That's okay if you think of, like, if you can think that, right? But it's when you use it to your advantage.
He can't think that. He can't think that. He can't. He's the president of a country.
A human. Bro,
he's a human. He's a human. But I think
he can have his opinions, right?
No. Fuck him. A president of the United States, a president of a country. I think, fuck the Russia scandal. As soon as there was some racial involvement in it, I think he is not fit to be president. You can't be a president of a country that has more than another half, black or minority, and still be the leader of that country, or still be fit to be the leader of that country. You can't even think that shit. I think they would have to do a lie detector test and ask him what he thinks about each minority group before he become president. Because if you are racist, you're not fit to lead a country, a state, a city. You're not fit for life. Honestly, I fucking hate racists. I hate racists.
Yeah.
Like, I understand there's stereotypes. You can stereotype. But racism, I think, is a different thing. Racism is when you're trying to racism slash fascism, I guess, is when you're trying to bring down the other group that you think is inferior to you. It just pisses me off, man.
Yeah.
When I just had a conversation, like a deep conversation with a friend that, like, lately, and he was like, "Yo, like, why does it even matter, right?" Like, it just made me really think. It's like, really, dude, why do we even care about this shit?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm honestly, like, using the podcast. Like, since we obviously have to do this stuff for the podcast, we have to learn about this shit for the podcast, do a little bit of research. I'm just gonna use that. Okay, get it on the podcast, and then literally pretend like nothing ever happened. Like, you can't do anything about it. Realistically, what can you do, right? All you can do is think, get angry. I don't know. Get angry, and you can't do shit about it.
Yeah, I honestly just stopped caring a while ago. You know what I mean? I just stick to my own things because, like I said, bro, like even like these people who are posting Black Lives Matter and stuff, like, obviously, listen. You obviously believe it, right? But what's a post gonna do? Let's be honest. Everybody around the world, you can be 10 years old, you can be 50 years old, you can post the same thing, but really, what difference is it gonna make? You know what I mean? It's the people who are in the power that need to be thinking like this, not just random civilians here and there, whatever. Like, bro, it's not gonna make a fucking difference if you put Black Lives Matter in your bio or whatever, because obviously, like, everybody believes it, you know what I mean? But it's the people who have power that need to believe it and need to like implement it into their beliefs and stuff like that. Because let's be honest, I can post a million things about Black Lives Matter and whatever. But what's it gonna do? No, tell me, what's it gonna do?
Exactly.
I'm gonna do absolutely fuck all. You know what I mean? I can post a million things about shit happening in Palestine. You know, like, let's be honest, like they've been facing racism their whole lives. You know what I mean? And I can post a thing about it every single day till the day I die. And what's gonna happen? Nothing, because no one's
maybe raise more awareness. That's it. Just raise awareness.
The power,
exactly,
bro. There is awareness, bro. There is awareness. There's no way that no one doesn't like know what's going on.
No, but it's certain things, yeah. But like the Palestine thing, bro.
Yeah, bro, it's like we have no power. We don't have the ability to be like, hey, listen, let's go there and let's riot there. You know, like, who's gonna do that? You know what I mean? Like, I agree. Yeah, like, spread awareness, but let's be honest, nothing's gonna change in the end.
And no matter how angry no matter how angry you get, especially like I said, Donald Trump in the office, nothing's gonna happen. Like you said, people in power need to do this stuff, and people in power are not. So if you're honestly just gonna dread about this, here's the thing, it will start to lead to depression, because you will start to want to change. You just feel so helpless to start worrying about this shit. I'm trying to get off of worrying about this shit.
Yeah.
But I think it's been an episode, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up. We do really hope you enjoyed this one. We hope we did not offend anyone. I know even in the intro we tell people fuck off, you're offended, but this was really sensitive, so hopefully we didn't offend anyone. Still, it's been a great episode, you guys. I know we haven't posted in a while. We've been taking a little break, but we're back into it now. So stay tuned for new episodes coming out. And I think that's it. We're out.
See ya.
Easy peasy lemon easy.